concludes the items on our regular agenda. We now move to 19-222, non-agenda speakers, and the chair recognizes Mr. Marissa Waters. Sir, you have 5 minutes.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, good evening. My name is Marissa Waters. I stay at 811 Hancock Avenue, Portsmouth. I was here at a May 11th meeting, and my question that I addressed to the council was, what would happen to the Portsmouth City Jail? Will it be closed down or will it be moved? No one came to get my information during that meeting, and I was not addressed by anyone to receive an answer. But after that meeting was over, Councilwoman Psimas, outside in the lobby, you addressed me about the questions that I asked. And also, Mayor Rowe, you addressed me about the questions that I asked. And I was wondering, as y'all were speaking to me, why couldn't you address me when I was at the podium? Why did you have to wait until the meeting was over before you talked to me about the Portsmouth City Jail? I was at the meeting on May the 28th. I read an article that was printed by the Virginia Pilot about Amanda Hoffler and the city about the moving of the Portsmouth City Hall building. Councilwoman Psimas, you addressed that concern about the article, but the article about the Portsmouth City Jail, you said nothing about. And Mayor Rowe, you also said nothing about the Portsmouth City Jail. And I'm here tonight, this is the 3rd meeting that I'm here, and I'm asking the question again. What will happen with the Portsmouth City Jail? Will it be closed down or will it be moved? And all I'm asking Councilwoman Psimas and Mayor Rowe is to give me the answer that you gave me back on May 11th while the meeting is in progress. Can you do that? Yeah, if you was telling me the truth and what you told me, there's no problem in answering that question or telling me what you told me back on May 11th. That's all I have.
Are you done, sir?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Psimas.
Mr. Waters, you don't have to come back, but I'm going to answer you. A lot of the times we don't answer you is because we're trying to let you finish what you have to say in your time. I'm going to tell you exactly the same thing I've told you twice now. There's been no decision made about the Portsmouth City Jail. We haven't had a meeting, this council, this configuration of this city council has had not one meeting about the Portsmouth City Jail. About whether it closes, whether it moves, whether it disappears, whether it gets blown up, not one. So there is no answer to your question. That's why I said to you, the staff will not get back to you because there is no answer. One step at a time. We talk about City Hall, we don't even know where that's going or how big it's going to be. We talk about a public safety headquarters. Those are the 2 items right now. We'll get to the jail, but it's not up for discussion at this point.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker, and please remember the rules. You're to address the whole council. There's 7 of us up here, so please direct your comments to the city council. The next speaker is Sergio Neal, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. My name is Sergio Neal. I reside in the Capital section of Portsmouth. I wanted to thank you all for those that came out to help Brighton Elementary recognized those student authors who participated in the BOSS project. Those children and those two facilitators have been impacted by a family member or another loved one being incarcerated. To have those children and those two staff members tell their story and have it published and have it available on Amazon is a definite blessing. We definitely need to look at how incarceration impacts our families here, especially in a city like Portsmouth, where, unfortunately, we have had several violent incidents happen in a very recent time. I wanted to address tonight the shootings that have happened in our city. Keep in mind that you all have done a great job addressing the city of Virginia Beach and the tragedy that happened out there. I work in the city of Virginia Beach. I work at a school in the city of Virginia Beach. One of my students has a mother that was in building 2 the day of the shooting. Fortunately, her mother made it out okay, but I can guarantee you that 6-year-old student would never be the same after hearing about what her mother had to go through on that Friday. Moving on, though, we have to look within our city to see what's going on and see how our families are impacted by shootings and other violent crimes. Our children, our families go through this as well. And we definitely, our city, we have to start looking within ourselves to figure out what can be done to reduce this. A lot of the most recent shootings have been committed by juveniles, very young people. And we have to say, as leaders, what can we do to change their mindset? You all have a very high level of influence on what happens in this city. A lot of times, if you look on social media, people are fussing at city council when the shootings happen. I'm the one to beg them to differ and say, why do we have to always wait for city council to do something? Why can't we as citizens do something? See, we as citizens elect you all to lead. However, we can't put all the weight on your shoulders and do absolutely nothing. We can't just complain on social media when shootings and other violent crimes happen. We have to start looking at what can we do. Can we go out in our neighborhoods and talk to our children, show them a different side of the positive side of what can be done? Some of us, some of you all that sit up here come from some of those rough neighborhoods, have seen it growing up. Nothing new is happening right now. Crime waves have come and go as long as life has been existing on this earth. It just comes in different shapes and forms. This stuff is nothing new. However, we have to take the responsibility to show our young people that there is something else besides shooting. We had Jeezy to come, speak about it, whatever the case might be. Had somebody, a friend of mine complain and say, why Jeezy, his music isn't always the greatest for children to listen to. But in the moment that he spoke to those young people, it wasn't about his music. It was about the violent crime that takes place, about why we should change the mindset. You don't have to always be a victim of your circumstance. I'm here to tell you, I could have been a victim of my circumstance. My mother died when I was young. My father was in and out of jail. If it wasn't something for a few of the Portsmouth City staff people in the recreation department and as well as some other people that, had an influence on me, I could have been one of those kids that was out there shooting or could have been dead right now myself. So I get it. But we can't always blame the council, blame the school board, playing the blame game. That's getting old and it's getting tired. My son can tell you he's tired of hearing it too, and he's 9 years old. He's like, what is Portsmouth gonna do? What are my friends over there gonna do? Because he lives in Hampton and they go through the same stuff. It's just dealt with differently. So I challenge you all to come to our neighborhoods, to physically come and see what can be done, and so we can all work together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Donna Side. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. Tonight, I am coming before you to petition Portsmouth City Council for a redress of grievances. The grievances relate to how the City Council and the school board are inflicting injury on the people by taking away our powers of sovereignty. In our Virginia Constitution Bill of Rights, Section 2 reads that all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people, that elected officers are the people's trustee and servants and at all times amendable to them. The definition of grievances is circumstance thought to be unjust or injurious and grounds for complaints or resentments. So what's the grievance? On Thursday night, the school board will be going into closed session to consider an expulsion of discipline case number. The reason for my grievance, students who are being expelled are not having due process of their right to be treated fairly by people in positions of authority in the school system, such as teachers, school administrators, staff, and the police. In the Portsmouth school system, the discipline is handled by 2 elected school board members. How does having 2 elected make the decision for expulsion allow the people the authority to be the source of power to prevent this kind of punishment? The people want restorative action plans in the school system whereby students are taught social skills that include repairing harm and restoring relationships. Look at the committee structure for the Portsmouth school system. The people have no authority. Look at the number of the incidents of crime and violence that have occurred in the school system over the years. Incidences have increased 2.5 times from 2008 to 2018. In the Bethlehem Area School District, the people have sovereign authority from their school structure. In Portsmouth, the people petitioned the school board in September of 2015. The people wanted to see petitioned the school board in September. The people wanted to see implementation in the Portsmouth School Division, the whole school change program. The school board members denied the sovereign authority of the people. Look at City Council. The elected have denied the people their right to become a restorative city. There was an idea to create a culture committee to help with relationship building and to have a budget for $50,000. Instead of creating a committee, there's been a hiring of a resiliency officer for $73,000 with a standard benefit package. As one of the people with right and duty to petition the City Council for a redress of grievances, the injury needs to be repaired by the elected to implement a procurement request to the International Institute for Restorative Practice to have a trainer come to Portsmouth and train the people so we can become a restorative city. Also, a trainer needs to come to the Portsmouth School Division and train the elected teachers, staff, administrators, and resource officers how to implement the whole school change program. In this way, students will be taught skills to resolve conflict restoratively. Read the research brief. Restorative practices help reduce student suspension. 2, read the brochure, Bethlehem Area School District. The brochure is a comprehensive guide to parents and visitors. See the information on the Parent Advisory Committee for all the schools. These parents advise the superintendent of schools up there. The people have sovereignty up there. Someone reported the Portsmouth school system is in the lower 1/3 of all the schools in Virginia. The people know there's a problem in the school system. This is why they signed a petition to implement the whole school change program. The people have no sovereignty in Portsmouth, so their petition was denied. Our city is in crisis. A system of government needs to be brought back to the people as our Virginia Constitution affirms, that all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people, that elected officers are the people's trustees and servants and at all times amendable to them. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Cliff Page, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the last session I brought to your attention issues that taking place in the 1000 block of High Street, which is in the Uptown Historic District. This evening, I'd like to speak to you about what's going on in the 1100 block of High Street, specifically Evans Electric, Ches Bay Auto, his buildings. This property, along with Mary Jane Bakery, almost a year and a half ago, was acquired by taking the properties off of a public auction. Maybe there was no bidders, I don't know about that. But that's my understanding that they got these properties at about 15 cents on the dollar. Now when that happens, a lot of people don't realize it. If it goes into the hands of public entities like redevelopment or economic development, it's not registered in the deed book, and nobody knows, but everybody else's taxes stay up. We pay the taxes, but the property goes down. As I understand it, economic development got the property. It may have gone through PRHA or wherever. It's not really important. But this city has a long history of blighting neighborhoods, blighting and demolishing by neglect properties so that they can acquire property. Nobody anymore uses eminent domain, which is the legal right protected to deal with property. Property is the most important protected right in the Constitution. It's mentioned 5 times, more than any other property. John Locke felt that it was the establishment of all civilization and government, property. So nobody uses eminent domain, and you have to do certain things to get property through eminent domain. It has to be for public use, and then later with the railroads, the Supreme Court changed that to the public need. But then nobody's using that anymore. They're blighting neighborhoods and taking property through other means. My neighborhood has been blighted for years. And a few years back, while I was out of state, the Redevelopment Authority, when Ches Bay Auto was over there at 1100, they let them park nearly 100 cars over there. Bums were sleeping in these cars. They weren't locked. It looked like a junkyard. The police told me when I flew back up from the Mexican border what had happened. I'd been burglarized for $650,000. Destroyed. Because people had gone into my property and just tore apart and stole and did everything that they didn't steal. They just destroyed. Now that was purposeful, I think. Subsequent to that, economic development got the property. And in August and September, I discovered this and checked with the city. And I talked to the planning department. I said, has anybody taken out a permit on this? No, didn't know anything about it. Checked with environmental inspection, checked with neighborhood quality. I did. Nobody knew a thing about it. Nobody. Okay? I checked with engineering. Oh yeah, we got a permit here. It's gone through us a couple of times and we're sending it back and forth. I checked back with the other departments. I said, you know, this has been historically something that each department has to check off on. Even the historic district, which I'm in, which ends in my building, it ends. It goes all the way to the downtown. That's the downtown historic district. It's the uptown historic district, business district. The Downtown Design Review Committee has authority over my district. The state recognizes that still. This Downtown Design Committee, even though it's in the form-based review, they have authority over demolition and new construction in that district. It is given to them by 15.2, 2306 of the state law to be in compliance with 800.5 of the federal code, 36 CFR. That comes from the federal government. Now recently, demolition started taking place over there, and I checked on this, and nobody knew anything about it. Furthermore, planning and environmental services, they said, we don't have any properties over here in the D2 district. They're in the historic district. I called up to the Historic Preservation Department in Richmond. They said, certainly, you're still in it. Because in the past, in 2011, they had taken 1020 off of the district. The city had taken it off the district to demolish the building. And I had informed the planning staff official at that time, he had no authority to do that. That belonged to the D2 committee, the DDC committee. This is what's going on. And this, I informed the city manager and have not had a reply. I asked for her to put a stop work order on that demolition because there has not been a proper vetting of that through the channels. There was no proper.
Your time is up, sir.
Permit.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark Godalgi, Etruscan, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. It wasn't long after I came to Portsmouth that I heard the phrase, the Portsmouth family. It was one I first heard from the lips of our former mayor, James W. Holly. And it had a very warm sound to it. But I came to learn, and other people who have been at this dais have referenced the fact that the Portsmouth family is a dysfunctional family. I don't share that entirely, but like every family, there are some members who are favored children and others who are not so well regarded. I think if we are to truly adhere to the sentiment that's embodied in that phrase, we need to ensure that all our children, all members of this family, are treated as well as possible, and the best interests of all are served. There was a couple of very interesting items in your work session of May 28th. One had to do with the report of the health director for the city. And there was some very discouraging news about where Portsmouth ranks in terms of localities across the state, cities and counties, with regard to the health of our residents. To me, one of your 4 big things, one of your 4 goals as council members should be to ensure that Portsmouth does not end up in the lower third the next time that survey is done. The health of our people is an integral part of the health of the city. One other interesting item that could relate to this is the new $1 million set aside for host cities for the ports of Virginia. Now, I don't know how they count those cities. I don't know if they count the inland port host community as being eligible for grants from that fund. And there is something called grants to inland ports that the Port Authority now has as a handout that can be given to certain localities. Well, there's a long list of cities and towns and counties that seem to be eligible for that, and the money disappears quickly when it's spread in as many places. But if it's the traditional host cities that come in for this grant, I would encourage our city to find a way to access those funds to improve the health of our residents. I believe that that would be a suitable use for the funds that are being allocated, and I would ask you to look for a way to maximize that grant to us to improve the health of our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Charlotte Scott, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor.
Speaking to Tony.
Good evening, Mayor,
You can adjust that mic, Pat.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. My name is Charlotte Scott. I live in Churchland, Chesapeake, 3435 Clover Meadows Drive. However, I'm former resident of 2601 Effingham Street in the Newtown community. And I just found out that my mayor is also from Portsmouth. And I wonder why I never heard that before. I mean, he's also from Newtown or has family ties. Fred Rowe at the Newtown Teen Center in 1948. And City Councilman William Moody is also a former resident of Newtown. Never heard that. I've been at this podium several times and I've asked, what happened to the white members that were in Newtown behind us? Nobody's ever said anything. You probably weren't there at that time, but it's still, I don't see what the secret, why there was a secret. What I'm about to read was to formally be presented to Tim Kaine and Mark Warner. And I was given given the advice to forward that information by State Senator Louise Lucas on April 8th, 2019 at the City Council City Hall building. After the City Council meeting, I asked, whispered in her ear, why haven't you spoken out against the lead and mold contamination? This is not the proper arena, she said. Environmental and contamination conditions, ordeals, and matters are federal. So I took my time and I wrote a letter to Tim Kaine and Mark Warner. And when I contacted Sandy, who is the office administrator for Mark Warner in Norfolk, she told me they cannot address those matters because they are elected officials. So I wasted time. But some of what I said was, we applaud you. We applaud Virginia for properly addressing the recent concerns of the health hazardous mold ordeal existing within the military housing. No one should live under those conditions, especially after notification to accountable parties. However, we need you to be aware of the conditions and concerns of our community also, and we are now placing you on notice. There is a life-threatening mold ordeal as well as a chronic, daily, repetitive for a long time, inherent lead and other deadly toxins, toxic emissions being released unto the air, some in very close proximity to our dwellings by non-compliant industrial businesses into the very air we breathe and the water we drink. This is throughout the 23704 zip code, which consists of low income, fixed income, predominantly black families within the civilian private home owners and multi-family public housing communities of Portsmouth for over 60 years. This has created an unsafe, unhealthy, much sickness and many deaths, unfit for human residential living conditions. We have much concern for our children, childbearing age women, men, and senior residents. For years in this community, there has existed Hope Village.
And your time is up. Thank you.
I'll be back. Another time.
speaker is Orlando Newton Jr.
Thank you.
And so we have 5 minutes.
Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members of Portsmouth. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. My name is Orlando Newton Jr. I'm a resident of the Cavalier Manor section of Portsmouth, Virginia, and I'm a major hip-hop recording artist signed to 50 Cent G-Unit record label under Universal Records, and I also have my own record label under Sony Records. I'm also doing a charity celebrity basketball game this summer in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I'm donating all the proceeds from that celebrity basketball game to the victims of the shooting in Virginia Beach that just took place. And I wanted to present today my music workshop, Stop the Violence workshop for the youth. I'm willing to do it free, 1 month for the next year in the Parks and Recreation and YMCA. This workshop, Stop the Violence workshop, music workshop, and fashion workshop for the kids that will teach the youth one-on-one hands training for different jobs and skills to obtain lucrative jobs in the music industry. I will teach them how to invest in themselves. I will show them how to obtain their own LLC or business license. I will show them the importance of good education, completing school, and that education is always number one. I will give them hands-on assignments on different marketing plans and strategies used in the music industry to obtain success. I'll show them how to use the internet to their advantage and to market and promote and sell their music. I will teach them how to start nonprofit and charity organizations and the importance of giving back in unity among the community, people of all ages, races, and genders. I will allow the youth to help me hands-on with one of my singles from my highly anticipated debut album, All Eyes on Capo. This inspiration will show them they can do anything they put their minds to. I will also teach them the fundamentals of music, fashion, and networking, how to start and build their own brands, whether in music, fashion, or in any other force, how to start their ASCAP and BMI, and I will give them intense motivation and marketing plans to keep them ready and hungry and prepared for this world. I just want to ask the city council members and the mayor and vice mayor, could I have your blessing on doing this workshop and Stop the Violence workshop for the youth? And thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Bates, would you have the appropriate member of the staff get with him, get the contact information that he is proposing?
Ms. Hogue, could you please give the information?
Thank you. I have I typed up something to give to all y'all. Is it okay if I can give it to you?
Give it to the sergeant.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and city council members.
Thank everyone for attending tonight. This concludes our agenda. This meeting is closed.